Well, we're going to get started. I want to make sure we have as much time as we can for the training. I want to thank everybody who could join us for the third session of the third module. Just to explain, we really felt it was important to give enough time to the module and to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to process it and share and participate in the activity. So thank you very much for joining us for today. I am going to turn it over to Karen.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Karen. And I would just say everyone gets a special star sticker, something for showing up on a Friday for this 2-hour session. We really do appreciate your understanding as we've sorted out how to, again, have enough time for everything we want to share in this module, which is this module is when we really get to the meat of the content that aligns so heavily with this initiative, Family-Centered Peer Recovery Coaching. So thank you. As Karen Yost said, I echo all of that. So just to remind you a few things. Well, this is what we're doing today, Module 3, providing family-centered peer recovery coaching, Part 3. And we're going to start with Strategy 2, strength-based services today. But before we go there, we got to, just set the stage, do our regulate, relate as we always do. So this is the agenda we've been working throughout this Module 3. And what we're doing today is really this last bullet, family-centered skills and strategies. That's where we're at. Just remind you of this. You guys have been an amazing group, and I don't need to go through these at all. But most importantly, maybe would just encourage you to take care of yourself as you need to. Yeah, it's a long week. It's been a long week for our team, and I know it's been a long week. I can just guess it's been a long week for you. So take what breaks you need. You can keep the video on if possible. Stand up, walk around, and of course, related to any feelings that might show up, just whatever you need. And you can always reach out to Sarah or myself or Karen Yost in the chat, in an individual chat if there's anything that comes up for you. So we are going to get to our regulation exercise, and then we're going to do relate, and then we'll get into the strategy number 2, I think, strength-based exercises. So this one is, I think, kind of timely and relevant for end of the week. No matter what you had going on, it was enough and maybe more than enough. So we're going to just do a really easy stress blowout exercise is what it's called. I'm going to stop sharing so you can see me. And this one is best done by standing up if you're able to. And it's really much easier to do in person with folks, but we can't always limit our exercises just because we're virtual. So I'm going to try here. And basically all we're going to do is, so you can see me, we're going to lift both hands like this above our heads, and you can bend your knees if you'd like, and then you can kind of put your hands into a fist. And all you do is take a deep breath, and then bend at the waist and just blow out your breath and bring your arms down and bend at the waist. I'll demonstrate. So it's just like that. Just a stress blowout exercise. We call it whoosh too. You can whoosh. So I'll do it more in time. Whoosh. So if you'd like to do that, we don't have to do it in unison. Just let all that stuff that's built up from Monday through Friday come right out as you do that deep breath. And I'm going to actually
do that in yoga, Karen.
Do you? Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. What do you call it there, Terry? Does it have a name? A name besides this?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. They do it on Yoga with Adrienne a lot. She'll do that.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. That's the deal. Just let it all go. Let the week go, and then we'll get into having fun together. Thanks for sharing, Terry. Okay. Now to our relate exercise, and Cody, thank you so much. If you could please put us into, I don't know, rooms of 3, I think. And this is just what we'd ask you to share in your small group. Please share with your colleagues 1 or 2 of your superpowers that you bring to this work. So your strengths, things that really are some stuff, your superpowers that you're proud to show up with most days. And how do those superpowers help you every day? So it's just a chance to talk about your strengths, your superpowers, and how it matters for you. And we'll go just for about 5. I think we probably only need 5 minutes for this. So Cody, 3-ish people and 5 minutes for this discussion. Thank you, everyone. If you end up in a room where no one's with you, just come on back and we'll help you. We'll sort it out. Thank you.
Ooh, okay, what's your superpower?
What's my super?
Grant writing?
No. God. Oh my gosh. Good. See, I'm not sure if I can come
Do you
up
want me
with.
to name your superpowers, Karen? I
No,
know
you go, Sarah. What's your Karen Yost?
My superpower is silliness or laughter, I
Yes,
think. I
it's
mean,
true.
I think it's and sometimes inappropriate laughter or laughter through tense moments, but still staying with it. So I think that's one of my things. But yeah. What about Karen Yost? You're muted.
I think mine's a sense of humor.
Karen Johnson, I know.
Mine may be both a superpower and I guess any superpower can have a negative side, but sometimes I can be pretty sensitive to people around me, and that is helpful when someone on my team is struggling or whatever. Yeah.
So I phrased that. That's what I was going to say, but I wasn't going to say sensitive. I was going to say attunement. Attunement. You know what other people are feeling.
Oh, thank you. We know each other.
Cody.
Cody.
What's your superpower?
Oh, that is my superpower. I mean,
I know one for Cody.
oh gosh, what is it?
Creativity.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say organization, but like creativity is definitely much more my thing. I'm very creative outside of work as well. So
But you take work things and you are creative with work things. I mean, yeah, definitely creativity is Cody. I mean, she's got a lot, but creativity is really right up there because she can just take something and make it really good.
this is just you still loving on me for the
I am loving
site
on you
visit
for the
report- site
protocol
visit
for
thing.
sure, but perfect example.
Ugh.
But
I do
yeah,
like
you are creative.
I do like setting up and formatting and like kind of laying. I'm not very good at like pure visual stuff. So like actual proper layouting where you make something look pretty. I'm okay at that. I'm very good at making something both functional and organized and like visually clean. I'm good at cleaning stuff up. I don't know if I'm good at making stuff pretty. But yeah.
That's right. That's why we have Canva, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
Good.
Jermaine Russell is joining. She asked me for another link, so I sent her the link. So she will be joining soon, Cody.
Okay. I'll keep an eye out.
You're coming back.
Sometimes, yes, that gets you, Cody, a good spreadsheet, a good organizational flow. It's very comforting. I have a colleague who unfortunately her husband just passed, and her son made her a spreadsheet of all the things she had to do to settle his estate, and she is just gaga over the spreadsheet. She's like, I love it. It just tells me what to do, when stuff. So, a good spreadsheet can be comforting.
Hi, Jermaine.
It's helpful to be able to like set stuff up so that they're it's easy to read, easy to parse, and it saves you time in the future. So yeah.
Well, it saves me time.
All right. People are starting to come back.
Donald, you got a sweater on now, so you're trying to make it
I'm
work
in-
outside.
In the
I'm
shade
in the
now.
yeah,
Oh,
the sun
Mark,
was too much. That was just irresponsible. Sitting in the sun for 2 hours. I mean, now I sweater, coffee,
You're
back
ready to
deck.
go now.
Mm-mm.
hey, Karen, when you were talking about before marking the times, we just recorded our entire conversation. So we might want to.
Are we?
Oh,
That's fine.
We
Yeah.
were,
Yeah.
We
I
can
think-
cut it out.
Record this.
There you go.
Uh,
Come on.
Come on. The walkout. Ooh.
And don't forget, as a sustainer, you're entered into every competition.
All right.
You could go to Australia.
Thanks for coming back. Love to hear some of the superpowers that were shared. Just a few. I know in our group we did it in our little group that stayed back, and humor, attunement, and creativity came up in our group.
In our group, I was fortunate to have Charlie in our group, and she talked about just being able to know your boundaries. We talked about meeting the client where they're at, kindness, and acceptance,
Cool.
and detaching from the outcome.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Sarah, that thank you, Brian. Wonderful. Sarah, you got your hand up.
So yeah, I love that, being able to detach from the outcome. That is a superpower. You know what I mean? And that's a real superpower. So we had some similar superpowers. Were both like approachable, easy to talk to, authentic, down to earth women. And we have found that makes it just very accessible and approachable to clients. And then also we mentioned, I mentioned being able to work, my own personal program, apply it to all the areas of my life so that I don't get over enmeshed or attached to anyone's one problem. I need to remain available in general to a lot of people in a 24-hour period, really. So being able to apply that, and then my partner also has the ability to really help families understand all the clinical stuff they may be hearing with a family member or with their own lives, and being able to put it in simple terms and connect on a peer level.
Nice.
And so,
Wow.
yeah, that was us.
All really cool stuff. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, go ahead, Charlie.
I just wanted to say that I have the coolest sticker on my water jug, and it says, "My superpower is peer support."
Oh, what a huge superpower, and you all have it. What a huge superpower. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Wow. And do we need that in this world? The superpower of peer support. So thank you. If anybody else, don't want to shut anyone off, but so this is just kind of a nice setup and lead in to where Sarah's going to take us next. And remember, this section that we're on now is strength-based services strategy number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Sarah, and I'll share for you, Sarah.
Thank you. So we're going to just continue on with the strengths conversation. And so we ask you to go a little bit more in depth than just your superpower, but just to get us thinking about that. If you can grab a piece of paper, scrap of paper, or whatever, and just make 2 columns. And again, we're going to ask ourselves to self-assess. What are the characteristics that you love about yourself, that you really like, that you think are great. They can be, skills, they can be, again, powers or superpowers, they can be characteristics, those kinds of things. They can be things that you do, actions you engage in, things that you love about yourself. And then maybe another column of things you don't really love, things that you would like to change, things that whatever, when you look in the mirror, you always look at that thing and you criticize yourself. When you make a mistake, you're always hard on yourself about that. What are the things that you would like to change? So we'll just take a few minutes, a minute or two, to just do a free write, list the things that are your things that you love, like about yourself, things that maybe you would love to change. So take some time to do that. I'm going to get my paper here and do it as well. All right. I will bring you back for a second for step 2 of this. And now I'd like you to think about somebody or a group of people that are closest to you in your life. The people that are your best support people, the people you go to when stuff gets tough. And I want you to think about them being in this meeting and helping us to describe you. What are the words that they would use? What are the things that they would say about you? What things would they add to this list? And if it's a word you already use, please feel free to circle that word or underscore that word. And if it's a word you haven't written down, please feel free to add that. So we'll just do about two more minutes to think about the people that are closest to you. How would they describe you? Okay. And then I would just encourage some reflection, whether that's self-reflection or something you do in the chat or something you would like to share by unmuting. Think about that. Which of those columns was easier for you to come up with? Which of them is longer? Your strengths or things maybe that you want to fix, that you want to change about yourself? Which was easier for you to come up with? Did our critical voice come up? Does it creep in there like it sometimes does? They're about the same for you, Donald. And also, what about thinking about people that are close to you in your life? Do they see you differently? Maybe do they identify your strengths in a different way than maybe you do? Brian says strengths was easier. I was surprised to see it was easier to see my strengths today than maybe earlier in recovery. Yeah. Other people, Donald, you're saying other people saw your strengths before you saw them? Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes that's true. Feel the same way. Yeah. And even sometimes the things that we define as maybe our deficits or our quote unquote weaknesses can also be strengths. Karen, I hope you don't mind me sharing this. When we were in the other piece, we talked about our superpower, and Karen talked about being a little bit sensitive sometimes. She's like, sometimes that can be a negative, sometimes that can be a positive. And I'm like, I see you as really attuned. You know what other people are feeling. And so how we think about ourselves, and I'm thinking about that same way. But when I see my weakness, others see it as a strength. Thanks, Casey. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do think, and part of our work around this, anybody else want to share or come off mute about that quick exercise? Okay. Well, I will keep going with that, but sometimes I think we are trained depending upon, your parents, depending upon your culture, depending upon a million things. Sometimes we are trained to look at our deficits. Currently reading Strength-Based Leadership from Gallup to learn more about my strengths. Cool, yeah. So having ways to think about our strengths, I think in the work of self-compassion, which I think we've talked about before, there is this idea that some of us got instilled in us is that if we focus on our strengths rather than our deficits, we'll get lazy, we'll get complicit, we won't start achieving. But self-compassion definitely tells us that when we attack ourselves, our stress response goes off because we're both the attacker and the one being attacked, and those messages are coming from inside our own head. And you know, sometimes they are things that we are saying to ourselves, and sometimes they're playbacks of recordings of things people have said to us. So I do want to focus a lot as we think about working with the family in family-centered peer recovery, that we do want to be focusing on strengths. And so just that exercise was a little bit about yourself, but also like kind of where are your natural tendencies? Do you tend to see the challenges, the deficits, and not even from just a negative way, but all of the, are you focused on the needs and the gaps, or are you focusing on building from strengths? So when we are doing that, we need to be looking at focusing on the family story. Attentive listening takes precedence over all things. So we are trying to understand them. We are listening without judgment. We are trying to hear more rather than jumping to a conclusion. Making human connections, thinking about all the clues that they're giving us, taking the leads to take down that pathway. Respecting collaboration, discussing their dreams, encouraging them towards joy. And this is, you know, again, not a conversation, not an interrogation. So it's not rifling somebody with questions on a checklist that some of us might have experienced in our kind of treatment process or recovery process. Is really having a conversation and naturally discovering through that genuine connection the strengths of a family that maybe they don't see yet. Strength discovery is critical in building blocks. Again, people feel better when we can see strengths, hope, when we feel invested in their family. And again, to be able to see strengths that they might not be able to see, and to understand how strengths work, that strengths build upon each other, that even our what we might call gaps or deficits oftentimes are things that we are doing in order to protect ourselves, are doing in order to survive. And so focusing on that strength, focusing, facilitating from that perspective, and trust will follow. So how might we join with the family? Well, that's a click in. Well, I don't know why that comes in one at a time there. We might need to fix that. That's a lot of clicky. What's a family's perception? So joining with the family, what's their perception? So really trying to see it from their lens. Again, being curious. I think curiosity is my favorite word about connecting with people. What is their perceptions of the risks versus your perception of the risk? How are those different or the same? What are the limits? What's the family willing to do? What aren't they willing to do? How do you balance? You know, again, obviously we want to have the family in the lead, but we also need to think about danger, protection, safety factors, the agency's goals versus the family's goals. Are they the same? Are they aligned? The program goals, what are the outcomes that they wish to do? And so how do we balance those? And I even think, how do we integrate those? Like when I was working with kids, and sometimes kids would get referred to working with a therapist at somebody else's recommendation, right? And so part of their goal was to get me to leave them alone, right? And so how might I align the goal of them performing better in school to be a way to get adults to leave them alone, right? So thinking about how we might be more creative in thinking about how to align the strengths and goals, the goals and outcomes with the family and the goals of the agency or the program. Really understanding the family's knowledge versus professional knowledge. This is a joining with, especially in the peer-to-peer model, really thinking about how do we have shared understanding and knowledge, and that one is not superior to the other. They're just different kinds of knowledge. Moving on, key assumptions.
Yeah, one more.
Strengths, what?
Just a lot of animation. That's okay.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
don't know, that just came in. That we all have strengths. So we have to have that. Do we have that in our core of our beliefs? Like when we think about our core beliefs about families, do we walk in assuming every single person in that family has their own strengths and their own strengths that are unique? And that change happens through supporting strengths versus zeroing in on deficits. It doesn't mean we don't acknowledge the truth, acknowledge realities. Of course, we don't want to be, Pollyanna and too, there's something that's going around, people talking about toxic positivity, So it's not saying, okay, we're never going to talk about problems. All we're going to talk about is strengths, or is positive things. You can't tell me anything that's bad, but it's really understanding from my training when I was thinking about how I was trained strength-based. When somebody brings me a really heavy problem, some of the questions that are strength finding are, wow, how were you able to sustain through all of that? How did it not get worse than it did? So it is in some ways thinking about how you acknowledge challenge, but also see strength within that. Exploring strengths through commonalities, and then build from that. All even environments have strengths to be built upon. Which leads us to this next activity. And I would love to do this. I think we're going to do this just in the chat. Some of you may have seen this or a picture like this before. I would love to do a quick assessment of, sort of your initial thoughts when you see this picture. And then maybe we could kind of rapid fire into the chat. Messy, lived in. Yeah, so those are kind of your initial thoughts. I would love for people to think about, what are the strengths that you see in this picture? Yeah, they have food. What else do you see? The dad's coming home from work. We're assuming that's dad, yeah. There's a hug going on. What else? The family is together. They have family photos.
Mm.
They have pets.
Mm.
Mom is not in bed. There's electricity. There's two parents. Mom believes in self-care, LOL. Yeah. What else do we see? There's groceries. Somebody talked about food. There's a puzzle and games on the floor. They have a house. There's a place to live, right? They have a refrigerator. There's a note on the fridge. Yeah. Anything else? There's a TV guide, so it must be from a long time ago. What else? They have a cat. Yeah. All right. Reading materials. Fruit. Yeah. Healthy food. So again, it doesn't mean we don't want to work with a family to say, for cleaning and organization, it looks lived in. They're enjoying their space together. The fact that they have a home. That we don't want to ignore any dangers. Laundry has been washed. It's not folded, but it's washed. We'll take it. Who here hasn't lived out of their laundry basket once in a while, right? So, I have two teenage sons, and their dirty clothes go on the floor, and then when their laundry comes in, that also goes on the floor until it converges to one big pile, which means they just wash everything they own every couple of weeks, because they don't know what's dirty and what's clean. So, all right. So have books, yeah. So it's easy to, again, look at this picture and judge and say, whoo, that's a mess. Or to think about, families, homes that we've been in that we have been, there has been a smell because the litter box hasn't been changed, or they're smoking, and you get that combination of cigarette smoke and litter box, which I have been in many homes where that is present. But to really start to think about, how do we build on the strengths and capacities of this family is really what this is about. Okay, thank you for engaging in that. Moving on. So key elements of discovering strengths. So looking at attitudes and values of a family, setting the tone for the style of interaction. So again, finding common values, looking at what are my beliefs around that, skills and abilities. So my doggies are barking. Building blocks for using them as building blocks for change. Pointing to natural ways, natural connections to their attributes, their history. All the way going back to, I think it was last time, or maybe the time before that, when we did the genogram. What are the things in their history that point to a way for our focus on strengths? And then building participation and validity through understanding their preferences. Okay, just a second here. Let me open this up. Okay, yeah. Excuse me. So I'm clicking between documents. Okay, so functional strengths assessment. Some of the questions that we can talk about with them. You know, what are the things that a family can do? What have they done before around problem solving, around how have they solved or avoided problems in the past? So having this conversation, how did your how did your family cope with this in the past? How have they dealt with this in the past? How do they hope to be dealing with it in the future? Looking for ways in which they have functioned around solving problems. How have they avoided harm? That's my question that I asked before. How have you kept the children safe? How have you managed to avoid harm when things were really stressful? What was happening in the environment? How did you keep the environment safe? What safeguards have you put in place when there was risk of harm? Really focusing on, you know, even though a family is struggling, they are still standing, right? And for each one of us to say, think about it, that even if we've had really the roughest journey in our life, we're still here, we're still standing. And so even the most challenging situation can have those aspects of strength. What has worked in the past? How did the family, what did the family get out of it? So, you know, what was a way in which, you know, we solved the problem or we worked on something? How did it work? And what were the good things that came out of it? What were the things that maybe you would do differently? And how could you use that strength again? I really do love, and again, some of these come from, well, I was trained in strength-based or solution-focused therapeutic questionings, things like that. Other people are trained in different ways that shows up, those open-ended questions. But I do like, you know, asking those open-ended questions. That's you know, if this had worked out the way you wanted it to work out, how would you notice? What would you see? Again, having those hope and strength right in the forefront. This is really thinking about being a strength detective. So as you're having this conversation, writing down little words or notes on what you observe. What do you hear them saying? What are you observing in the way in which they interact with each other, interact with you, that gives you a clue to their strengths? So what am I seeing? What am I hearing? So what vocabulary are they using? Where are the strength-based languages? Even rephrasing something. So if somebody says something in a way in which they are, excuse me, identifying a failure, well, I was only able to ... Instead of saying, wow, you were able to do this thing, you know, so really changing just a little bit of the language so that they can hear it and maybe start to absorb it. Yeah, Donald, great. The fact that they're speaking to me at all is a strength, right? That you are here today, sitting there. What are your family treasures? What are the things that you know, show me, like if you're in somebody's house, what are the things that are most important to this family? What are the things that bring you joy? I often do that as like an activity even on these kinds of meetings. What's something in your environment right now that you value, and tell me why you value that. And it usually has a story behind it. Maybe it's not financial value, but it's like, this represents a really beautiful time in my family. My dog, yes. Donald, can I pet that dog? Oops, Karen, I got your email up.
Yeah, just trying to close it so we don't hear
Oh,
a ding. So sorry.
Oh, okay, great. So here's one of my, this is, you know, nobody would ever think. This is Yoshi, if people know, Mario Kart, things like that. If somebody would ask me what my family treasures is, this is one of my family treasures. When my kids were little, one of the things that I would have my partner do is take my kids to the store and say, buy something you think mommy would like. And so for Mother's Day or for whatever. And so this is when they were young, and they bought me Yoshi because when we played Mario Kart together, I would always choose the Yoshi character to be. So mommy loves Yoshi. Of course, what a middle-aged woman wouldn't love a stuffed Yoshi, but it has so much meaning, and I see it as a family treasure, right? It's something that takes me back to, yeah, they thought about me and thought about a time that we had together that was special playing this video game. So it's family treasures. What are things around the house, being in someone else's environment. And if they're coming to see you in another location, bring something with you that means something to you. Can really open up this idea of strengths and treasured memories. Telling stories. Tell me a story about a time it was good. Tell me about a story about a time that you really loved being together as a family. And then really looking for, behaviors that we might seem as quote unquote dysfunctional, and I might even cross out the dis in this, thinking about how are the dysfunctional quote unquote behaviors serving you? What function do those behaviors have in either relieving stress, creating, creating safety, or creating distance, right? So maybe sometimes we do something that pushes people away. And so wow, you really felt like you needed to get safe, to get away from someone, to create a barrier in that way. So anybody else have things to add about that when you think about that? My farm, yeah. Awesome. When you think about um looking for clues for strengths, what do you do when you're trying to figure it out? When somebody comes in and they're really feeling low, and they, if I ask them to do this activity of strengths and challenges, they'd be all on the challenges side. How might you help them? What are your thoughts?
One of
I like. Oh, go ahead.
no,
Go ahead, Sarah. I like to celebrate folks showing up, just period, or folks still being here today, folks being alive, folks
Yes.
having the wherewithal and insight to try to improve health and wellness and autonomy and such. But also, I don't want to so quickly label, resilience as this almost mystical quality, because I think we have to be careful about, you're so resilient.
Yes.
You're such a resilient person.
Mhm.
And, they may have lost a family member. And it's like, well, but they weren't. And so you get,
True.
I think resilience obviously can be strengthened and exercised and everything. I think we just have to be cautious about the inadvertently stigmatizing expression of, you got a big dose of resilience.
Yeah.
Lucky you.
Lucky you. Thanks for
But
sharing that. I do think that a lot of the folks that I've worked with around trauma and that kind of thing don't really care for the word resilience, because when you look up resilience, it's returning to what was.
Mhm.
And I don't think we ever return to what was, right? Especially after trauma and things like that. We maybe have a new evolution of ourselves, but it's not like a bounce back kind of thing. And so sometimes that gets, I don't want to say weaponized, but I guess I will. It's just, why don't you just be resilient? Like, pull yourself up by your
yeah,
bootstraps and get over it. Right. So I definitely agree.
like
But yeah,
like that
but
other
also
person.
it's that balance, because you want to make sure there's also hope, So yeah, good. All right. I often look at the individual fashion, unique, say something about the person, their hair, nails, clothes. Awesome. Awesome. Barbara, go ahead.
Yeah, I like to, if I have made a decent connection with the family, what I like to see is because my program is I try to be a very spiritual person in my program. So I try to identify where they are on that in that field. And if they are, because I have found that people think that the bad things are happening to them because they're bad or they've done something bad. And I try to explain to them grace outweighs karma, hands down.
Mm,
And I try to teach them that,
that's
you know.
beautiful.
So give yourself some grace.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah,
Mhm.
that is, well, I won't get too personal, but I've had some moments too where it's like you feel cursed, or you feel like, what did I do in this life or another another life? Right, that kind of thing. Anybody else? I can't see everybody's faces, so if you're raising your hand or unmuting, I can't see everybody, but so feel free to share.
I can,
Thank you, Karen. Oh, yeah. Karen, do you have anything to share, or you're good?
I'm I love what
Right.
everyone's saying. I love, let me just say, maybe being a Friday, I'm tired, et cetera, but some of the reflections that you had from the strength-based question around the family and all the things you saw, actually got me choked up. So this stuff's really powerful. And the more we can do it, the one, Donald, that you said about mom's out of bed, hell, does anybody have any idea how hard it was for her to get out of bed? But she's freaking
Right.
out of bed. And that alone is just so powerful in all the things you said. So I would just, yeah, thank you for all you've shared. And I love being a strength detective. I love that.
Yes. All right, thanks. All right, just a couple more, and then we're moving to another little activity around this same thing. So again, these are just a couple more slides. I think go back to sharing slides, Karen, please.
Thank you.
Family.
Right.
No, that's okay. I
Sarah?
will take it down. Yes.
I just wanted to also add, I think our families get so used to just saying what the problems are
Yes.
and why they're here, what brought them to treatment or whatever. And so it's so refreshing just to talk about strengths. It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. And genuine strengths, because I've seen
Yeah.
where, sort of assessments where strengths is the first thing. And it's like, it's so rote. And it's just like, we got to fill that box
Right.
in, and now let's get to the
Yes.
real problems. But really thinking about strengths is
Spending
your
some
building block.
time.
Yeah. So, and that's why I love family visits and visiting people in their home, even though they might not always want you to. That's okay. Then we have to respect that boundary. But just like that picture, there's so many. If you're looking for, there's so many clues about a way a family interacts,
Hmm.
their values. Doing a value assessment. What do you think is so beautiful? Thank
Yeah.
you, Carrie. Yeah. So back to the slide 2 here. What are we seeing? Tell me about that trophy. Tell me about that picture on the wall. Tell me about, whatever, symbols, religious things, their magazines, their books, what are all around us that are giving us ideas about their interests. And even if those magazines are, 10 years old, it shows a glimmer into something maybe before substance use disorder, maybe something that either that they used to be interested in, that they could maybe get back to, or a dream. I always say that one of my dreams was, now my kids, again, I've talked about this before, 16 and 18, we were always going to be a kayaking family. I was going to take them kayaking. I think we've gone twice. And one time my older son had a big meltdown and refused to paddle. So, so I don't know that goal, but if I had kayaking today magazine down here, talk to me about kayaking, Sarah. What was it about kayaking that was a dream for you, or whatever? And I would have said, being a family that exercises together, be a family that's in nature together. All of those things would have just come out of, even though we didn't accomplish that goal, those continue to be my dreams for my family, right? And so how do you take those little clues and dig in? And somebody could easily go into, yeah, we were always going to kayak, but that never happened, and now that's over, that kind of thing. So how do you, again, continue to be nuanced in that? Looking for words that imply success, happiness, coping, getting ahead, accomplishing, and words that might create a sigh of relief, a little smile, a little chuckle. Family treasures, if they have a photo album, could we go through this together? Talk to me about, times in your life. I don't know if everybody has photo albums anymore, but maybe go through the pictures on your phone, right? Family get-togethers, having the time to get together to talk about, sit down with them, listen to that, ask questions. Where was that taken? Asking them about their best friends, how they solved problems in the past, what are their affiliations, what clubs and sports and other things that they belong to, beliefs, hobbies, and projects, all just different ways to get at that. And here's some questions. Sometimes we feel a little stuck. So here's a couple of questions you could keep in your pocket to ask, a few sentence starters or question starters. what are the best things about your family? What does your family do well? What strategies or strengths have helped you to cope with challenges? What is something that you enjoy together, even if just for a little while? What's one thing you and your family laugh about together? What sources of strength do you draw from in difficult times? What are the best things about your children or each of your children? What do you hope for them? What kind of future do you hope to see in 5 years? Again, drawing from the wisdom of the group, what other questions would you add to that? What are the things that you ask? Sorry. Do you have any other question that you might ask a family to try to draw out strength? What's your go-to?
I guess for me, it would be like, what are y'all trying to accomplish as a family? What do you
Yeah.
want? What your goals are? Just like a breakdown like that, but not everybody knows their goals and they don't know how to
Right.
start, together.
Yeah.
Like me and my family, we're still learning with our children. So we give them questions like, "Hey, how's your day?" And then some days they'll tell us how their day is. Some days they won't. So we'll figure out, okay, what can we do to make them communicate with us more better?
Thank you for that, Casey. What are your goals? Excuse me, even breaking that down further, there's this question in solution focused therapy that it's not necessarily a therapeutic question. They call it the miracle question. And it's basically if you went to sleep tonight and you woke up tomorrow and the problem, quote unquote, whatever it was, had been fixed, had been changed, what would be the first thing you notice that would indicate to you that it had changed? Right. And so it's just these small, what's your first sign? Donald, you're smiling. Do you know this question? Anyway, okay. What would be the first thing that you noticed that something had changed? Right. So I would notice that the dishes from the night before had been cleaned up. I would notice that there wasn't, a bottle of booze sitting out in the morning or those kinds of things. Like what would be the thing? And so how do you like identify those small steps? So, okay. Thank you. Okay. I want to go back to my facilitator's agenda because I think I'm a little. I think there's an activity that goes in around this, isn't there, Karen? I'm sorry. Karen,
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm here.
I'm sorry. Do you know what the activity is around this? I've
Just a
lost
second.
my brain since last time we did this, and I didn't. And that's okay if we don't have one because we've talked quite a bit.
I think we're good. I think we're good right now.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah, I think we've covered most of this. What are the things that went right? What are the obstacles they've overcome? Times that we're happy, and strengths and who was involved. So, Donald said piles of money would be the first thing he'd notice. Would just be all over. You just wake up and go, "Wow, where did all this come from?" Thank you so much. All right.
Yeah, and I think the message here is you got to practice it because it's you just got to, as a peer recovery coach, family centered especially, and then the family and themselves need to practice this strength focused lens. It doesn't always come easy, and the stress and being in our lower brain and all those things keep us away from looking at strengths. So we need to keep practicing.
I do want to note too that again, it takes practice, and also sometimes and also don't have this as your only skill, right? The compassionate listening, being present, are also being done with this too. So if somebody says to you, "It was a terrible week, the worst things," they come to you and they say, "This was the worst week of my life," and you say right away, "Tell me something good that happened this
Of
week."
course.
They will not feel hurt. So really making sure you're listening, understanding them. They know that you're hearing them, and then you maybe say, "Wow, worst week of your life, and you still made it to this meeting. That's amazing." Right? So, like making sure you're doing both of those things. You're hearing people, they feel understood, and listen, and then you're sort of weaving in the strengths versus just saying, "Well, I don't want to talk about that. I only want to talk about good stuff," because then people don't feel heard. So want to make sure putting that on there too. So I will kick it over to Karen to talk a little bit more about trauma-informed strategies. Thanks for your participation.
Thanks, Sarah. And strategy 3 is just going back to what we talked about in module 2, reminding ourselves around the principles of a trauma-informed approach and how it shows up in practice. So, related to safety, I'm going to mostly focus on the right column here. We're going to listen to participants to tell us what safety looks like for them. We're going to strive to partner with folks to have meetings that are calm. The spaces may not always be calm. I mean, I've always been torn. Yes, I ask people to turn off their TVs. But if they need the TV on, I'm not going to force them to turn off the TV. So it's not always going to be your version of calm, but whatever can work for to create a place where people can be in their upper brain and have conversation. Respect privacy always. As far as trustworthiness and transparency, make sure you're outlining everything that's available to them, ensure informed consent, and follow through on the commitments you make. Do what you say you're going to do. Show up for people when you say you're going to be there. And of course, if something falls through the cracks, apologize. Say, yeah, that's on me. So sorry. Thank you for your grace, that kind of thing. Peer support, mutual self-help. This is an organizational thing. Man, increase your capacity of family-centered peer recovery coaches to do this work. And make sure your family-centered peer recovery coaches, this is an organizational piece for our leaders in the room and for all of us, are full members in all policies, practices, procedures, and interaction. Collaboration and mutuality, give participants a significant role in planning and evaluating services. Remember, they are driving this team, and it's us who are supporting them in that work, but we take their lead. Empowering voice and choice. To the best of your ability, create an atmosphere that allows participants and family members to feel validated and affirmed, and provide clear and appropriate messages about participants and family rights, responsibilities, and service options. Cultural, historical, and gender issues. Ensure access to services that address specific needs of individuals from diverse backgrounds that are relevant to people. And if you can, stretch to display messages in multiple languages to ensure everyone feels welcome. Focus what the language needs are, the communication needs are, and address them as best you can. So I'm going to go on pretty quickly from that, as we did a whole module on trauma-informed recovery-oriented systems of care. But keeping that lens at the center of your work will serve you well. So strategy number 4, partner with family to understand behaviors. So, when we were thinking about this, understanding behaviors is incredibly valuable and a central theme for working with the family. And it goes back to module 2, where we're talking about what's going on with an individual who experiences SUD, what may be going on in their brain that leads to the behaviors that are presenting, that most often, at least in this case, are can be worrisome, can be frustrating, can make families angry and hurt and resentful and stuck. So we want to always try to, as family-centered peer recovery coaches, help the family understand the behaviors that they're experiencing, both from of the peer and family members. As we talked about last time or earlier in this module, all family members show up with different ways that they adapt to the stressors and what's going on. So understanding our behaviors is very helpful, and that can lead us to shared decision making. Often when we're working in this with a family, if there's not an understanding of the behaviors, if there's not empathy and walking in someone's shoes about what's going on, it can lead to, I'm going to fix this. It has to be fixed. If it doesn't fix, if you can't fix it, we're done. And we're going to do it my way. We're not going to collaborate here. Your voice, you've hurt me so many ways, and I can't listen to your voice anymore. We're going to do it my way, those kinds of things. So understanding behaviors gets to us a place of empathy and a place where we can focus on shared decision making. And shared decision making is a huge, huge piece of family-centered peer recovery coaching, as you know. So Again, it's challenging though, because these 2 bullet points on this slide are the conflict. So the peer individual experiencing SUD is the expert in their own lives. They have the agency to make decisions in their treatment, action, and safety planning, when and how much they disclose, etc. And family members also have voices and need to be heard. Their voices need to be incorporated in decisions that are made. I think this is one of the pieces that's at the core of trying to sort out this model and trying to equip family-centered peer recovery coaches in this work. How do you balance these needs? Because you have to balance them. You have to focus on both. So how do recovery needs of the peer impact what happens and the timing of what happens? How do family members, close partners, or workers make decisions for the peer? And how does a family navigate shared decision making? Any thoughts on what your answers would be to these questions? When you're considering the needs of both, and both groups, family, peer, have a voice that needs to be listened to, that needs to be incorporated. Any thoughts? So I think as we continue to create this model, we will want to continue to dive deep into this to sort out how a family-centered peer recovery coach navigates both of these needs, huge needs. But again, the family-centered peer recovery coach's role is to ensure shared agreements have been discussed and agreed upon. So that's one way we can get to shared decision-making is coming up with shared agreements. What are we going to agree upon that works in this family for us to all have our voices heard, for our needs to at least be considered and weighed in the discussion? So a shared agreement process can really support the shared decision-making process. The role of family-centered peer recovery coach is also to build trust by listening, being that detective that Sarah noted, not just about strengths, but about not just about strengths and about needs and about what is rising to the top for family members and the peer that have to be considered. So we listen and then we communicate back to the family and the peer. We serve as a bridge. This is what I just heard. What do you think of what I'm hearing? Is that accurate, what I'm hearing? And what do we think about that? And then provide steps and guidance for the decision-making process. So this is just a very simple case example, and would love to just do this in a group setting again. So the peer says she's doing well. However, the family worker and/or the system says she needs to do more and make more progress in her recovery. So how can the family-centered peer recovery coach support the peer in their communication and their beliefs and their view on how they're doing? And how does the family-centered peer recovery coach navigate shared decision-making when the family and individual are not in agreement on a decision? Let's just put it in the chat or have a discussion here. You can unmute as well. I would say, I would speculate that this model, as I'm not a family-centered peer recovery coach, but as we're learning this model, this piece here is really challenging, is where the family-centered peer recovery coach has to sort out how to be all the things we've said, regulated for sure, neutral, non-judgmental, active listening, and repeating back what they're hearing as they do active listening. Any thoughts? For those of you who are doing it, how do you navigate this dynamic, this rub? And it's fine if we don't have all the answers today. And, you know, part of our initiative here is to build a case guide, not case guide, a project
I
guide.
can help, I think,
What's
a
it
little
called,
bit.
Karen? Oh, no, go ahead, Terry. Go ahead, Terry. Yes.
I think this happens quite often where when you're working with other systems or family members, they might not see the progress. So I think just being present with the family member or in a team meeting, wherever you may be, and pointing out some of the strengths and helping them understand recovery and just that psychoeducation, I guess. And also finding out a little bit more about what they're seeing as far as progress, or what they're seeing that, or what they're thinking the person isn't doing enough of, I guess. So just, I guess, listening and having that conversation is really important.
Yeah. Thank you, Terry.
Mhm.
Let's keep moving a little bit. I think these are questions to consider, but back to understanding behaviors. This can be a key towards shared decision making, or helping to understand behaviors shows the family member a different path forward. It helps the family member to see the behaviors as less random, more predictable, and the next one, really important, it helps family members to take behaviors less personally and feel more empathy. So, and there's still going to be wounds there that need to be repaired, but when people understand the behaviors, make sense, the wounds, the difficult emotions that come with it can be neutralized or can be less. When we're understanding behaviors, the family-centered peer recovery coach, if the family's understanding behaviors, then your role may be a little easier. You may be able to talk and collaborate on a plan for change. And obviously it destigmatizes substance use disorder. So understanding behaviors includes ambivalence. Ambivalence makes sense when it comes to challenges such as addiction and SUD. And so explaining this to the family can also help them open up their empathy lens, become more open to shared decision making. So obviously reasons for change could be less conflict in my life. Reasons to not change, there's a ton of awkwardness without experiencing the relief of the substance use, of whatever the method is to get a little high. The family will be happy, of course, if we can fix it, and it will all go away. But the person who's experienced a challenge may not know how to interact with their kids when they're not using. You won't be at risk of overdosing, of course. But I also won't be able to remove myself from stress. That coping strategy to take away those intense emotions or blunt them, make them less challenging, will go away. And that's a real challenge. Of course, you'll have improved self-confidence. I don't really know what else to do is a reason not to change. So for the family to understand these things can open up their empathy lens, can make them more available to share decision making. Reframing is how we can talk about it. A strength-based strategy designed to shift focus from problems, deficits, or pathologies to possibilities, resources, and strengths. We talked a lot about that. This has a lot of words on it, but reframing language, teaching the family reframing language from blame to understanding. Why do you keep making bad choices? There's a lot of blame and shame there. Instead, it could be, what do you think your loved one is trying to cope with or escape from? What changes have you seen, however small, that give you hope? You move from helplessness to supportive roles. I know I can fix them. No, Probably not. That's not how it works. What helps you stay connected to your loved ones without losing yourself? What's one thing you can do to support that both supports their recovery and yours? From hopelessness to resilience, the problem-focused language is, why does this keep happening to our family? And this goes along with a lot of what Sarah shared. The strength-based reframe is, what strengths has your family shown in the face of difficulty? What have you learned about yourselves through this? Moving from self-blame to self-care. So problem focus is, what did I do wrong as a parent, spouse, sibling? Moving to that strength-based reframe, what are you doing now that reflects love, care, and strength? How are you taking care of yourself while navigating this situation? Moving from silence to connection, why won't they talk to me? Focusing on, when have you felt most connected with your loved ones? What made that possible? What do you want them to know about how much you care? And what do you need to know from them about how much they care about you? And how can they show that? From fear to possibility, what if they never change? A strength-based reframe is, what would real long-term healing look like for your family? What gives you hope even on the hardest days? So this really aligns with all that we talked about in the last section. We know we've only got 45 minutes left, so but before we go to this, which I think is back to Sarah, I think, does any more thoughts on understanding behavior and how that connects to shared decision making? Any thoughts on that? And any thoughts on what a family-centered peer recovery coach needs to do to bridge that gap between, when there's a difficulty, to bridge that gap so people understand behaviors and then can move to a place of empathy, can move to a place of reframe. Is there things that you've done that have worked? I know there's tons of things you've done that have worked, but anybody who'd want to share in this chat or anywhere else would be great.
I have, like, I've never dealt with families, but I've dealt with my own. So I'm going to go off of mine, what I'm dealing with now. I like the fact that it goes from problem focused to strength based, because that's what I'm dealing with as now, but it's not with substance use, it's with mental health. So I'm just plugging it in there. Like, my son is mental health, with certain issues and behavioral issues. So for me, when I see this, it's like, how am I supporting them? Because I am a peer support, but I'm peer support for addicts, substance use. But for my son, it's mental health. So it's like, it's a kind of like a mediator in between. That makes sense.
Yes,
For
a connection bridge, a mediator. Yes.
Yeah. And supporting him. But like, I'm a mom to him, but also I am the mediator between him and his dad, because my husband, his father, does not understand mental health like that. Does not, so I'm trying to do two things at once. And it's like, okay, what connections or what way I can get close to him or understand him? Because I used to think just like that, and I still do sometimes. Like, what did I do as a parent? Or my husband thinks, what did he do as a parent wrong, for his child to be like this, or vice versa? How can I fix them? So then I try to figure, okay, well, let me see, what resources are out there. And so then I get with my husband, I let him know. And then my son, we just try it out. As of now, we are trying everything.
Wow.
But I do understand the concept of changing that strength base. And it really works, because it makes me look at things a little bit different. And I do understand mental health and substance use.
And when you're doing that, Casey, is it open up the door for listening to your son's voice and trying to honor his needs, trying to get to shared decision making? I mean, I know with children, adults need to decide a few things, but does it open up that door for you?
It does, very little, but and I think because I was only like that glimpse because of the trauma he's been through previous. He's never had a voice. His voice was always shut down. So I can see it working, because little by little, I say every day he does tell me something new.
Nice.
And whether it's positive or negative, he starts opening up. So it is working. It's just taking time. And I may be able to do this part, but somebody else can maybe be able to help him too
Yes.
as well with what resources we do have.
I love that. I love it. That's a great reminder that as a family-centered peer recovery coach, you don't have to do it all. You plant seeds and you partner with folks on their journey, but there are many other people in their lives who can also do play roles in all of this. Yeah, love that.
And I like the fact that I'm learning as I go with him and what I'm doing here, and then what I'm able to, like, if I ever do get to work with a family that's going through this similar, or even just with substance use, I'm able to help them.
Well, love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. What about taking a 5-minute screen break? No longer than 5. We need to honor that. We need to honor our wellness here. So, Sarah, if it's okay, I'm just going to insert that here, and we'll come back. 5-minute screen break, and we'll come back and finish up. Thank you. So back to defining expectations at the beginning of a treatment process or recovery process that involves a family-centered peer recovery coach and a team is very helpful, but also doing that at the beginning of every meeting can be very helpful as well. So I'm sorry, thank you for your comments, Sarah. We're coming on back and we're going to finish up. We're going to go through many of these slides fairly quickly because which is fine because some of them are repetitive, and also remember this is a pilot, so we learn from what's repetitive, we learn what don't need, we learn where we need to strengthen, etc. But we want to get to scenarios, which is important at the end. So, Sarah, I'll just pass this to you, and we're just going to keep moving. Thank you.
Yeah, we're just going to hit a little bit harder here on safety and trust within a family. I think this was one of the suggestions that came to us from many of the work that has come before this. So reintroducing the family member that is no longer in their addiction. So helping people to reestablish trust within the family when there has been harm before, having a family define, not even just make a list. We have make a list of what recovery can look like, but also what does it sound like? What does it feel like? Those kinds of things, not just big piles of money, Donald, but how would we know when we can start to establish that trust again among family members? Also using goals that are very clear, very collaborative, short, so that people can succeed. When you set goals with a family that are too long down the road and not very clear and pretty amorphous, it doesn't feel like I'm achieving something. So really thinking about clear, time-limited goals, having them to be measurable, reviewing that progress, really staying on target for that, and helping people to identify, again, small victories, small steps, really help build that trust, and helping them to see setbacks as part of the process, not as a failure.
Okay. Thanks,
Okay.
Sarah.
Yep.
So teaching family members strategies for self-awareness, coping, and compassion. This came up a lot in our work group. Self-awareness, a lot of the recovery journey for anyone who's part of a family that's experiencing this is an inside-out journey, of course. So our own individual self-awareness, being aware of your needs, emotions, how your nervous system works, and what activates you, helps you help your family member. So that is of course, as a family-centered peer recovery coach, we have to have our own self-awareness going on, but then modeling that for the family members that we're partnering with and working with. Needs, emotions, how your nervous system works, and what activates you. When people have that level of self-awareness, they're going to be more able and ready to do all the things that we hope they'll be able to do, all the things that we've said, look for strengths, etc. So, a self-care plan can be very valuable for anyone in a family, very valuable for anyone, but especially someone who's working through and on a recovery journey, both the individual and the family. This kind of plan, when I feel stressed, I will. This is on the left side. A safe place that I can go in is others can help me by. A person or people who can help me are. I know I will feel better when. And these are some of the things that show up that might show up on a person's self-care plan. Do you guys do self-care plans? this is definitely a tool that we need to make sure is available to all family-centered peer recovery coaches as you're working through and with the family, if you're partnering with the family.
I love this slide.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you. Yeah, this came up a lot from you guys as the participants in the work groups. And as we know from models such as wellness recovery action planning, it isn't something we just use for a crisis. We kind of get what's the word, preventative around our self-care, which is the best way to do it, so that we're not just doing self-care when we're in the middle of a crisis, when something is really activating is happening, but we do self-care always, so that we make it part of our daily life, part of our family routine, so that we've got more window of tolerance for when things are going south or are really difficult. So last section before we get to we do have a scenario that we want to do is promoting resilience in families.
So again, forgive our, going through this kind of rapidly, but I do want to talk a little bit about promoting resilience, and resilience in the way, again, as we talked about earlier with and Donald's contributions around it, is not just about being resilient, right, like buck up. It's really about thinking about the things that protect us in a way that we are able to be resilient. So protective factors here can be individual, can be in a relationship, and can be community. So we'll go through a few of those, trying to think about, again, what are the things that we need to have in place in order for someone to be able to achieve resilience. So if a caregiver is safe, it's a positive relationship with their children, there's nurturing parenting skills, really just even helping people to learn those skills. Basic needs are met: food, shelter, kind of that Maslow's hierarchy, education, health services, and caregivers have a capacity for steady employment. Referrals to parenting, promoting individual factors even more, routines in a family, ensuring that basic needs are met. Ooh, that's kind of repetitive there. And assisting the family members with any goals that they might have. Family protective factors, social supports, going all the way back to the genogram, right? So what are the things around them that are stable, positive? Relationships, caregivers being present and interested in the child, enforcing household rules, and having outside people who can serve as mentors.
Sarah, your camera's off. I'm not sure if that was your intention, but.
Oh, no, there it is. Okay, thank you. Reinforcing relationships, you can't see all my hand waving. That's really the
Yeah, right. We missed
part.
that.
Reinforcing relationships, assisting parents and caregivers to find positive social support groups, maybe with people with children or children of the same age, helping to build and reinforce safety routines and rituals, finding age appropriate. So teaching families about developmental ages and stages, those kinds of things, finding appropriate games, books, toys, and ways to play. One of the things I know about families that have experienced a lot of stress, a lot of trauma, a lot of SUD is, historically, is that maybe they never learned how to play, right? Never learned how to play with children, and so how to create that more natural way. Having community protective factors as well. I mean, we all know, again, this goes back to the hierarchy of needs. Is my housing safe and stable? Do I have access to high quality early childhood education and preschool? Is my neighborhood safe? Is there safe childcare? Safe programming for schools, after school programs, engaging, enriching activities? Do I have access to mental health services, medical care, financial stability, economic help? All of those other resources that we sometimes are helping people to connect with in order to create family stability, not just in relationships, but in their basic needs. Go ahead. And then thinking about boundaries. Always when we're thinking about creating those protective factors, it can be boundaries, again, within a family, or boundaries, as we've talked about before, within my own self. Boundaries are the distance in which I can love you and me simultaneously. And then just a couple slides before we get to the scenario on legal considerations. We talked a little bit about boundaries from that piece, but we're talking about real boundaries here. I'm sorry, in terms of confidentiality. So things that we need people to know, family-centered peer recovery coaches, around HIPAA and around statutes around confidentiality, informed consent. Really looking at the employees' policies and procedures and making sure that we are educating and sticking to those, particularly in a family system where this can get more complicated. Of course, we know about mandatory reporting. Again, we're looking for strengths and doing all those things, but it doesn't mean we don't identify what's in front of us. So when we have signs of abuse or neglect, to stay observant and look for unexplained bruises, injuries, emotional abuse, having, kids and youth that are fearful, withdrawing, inappropriate sexual knowledge, nightmares, regression, neglect, poor hygiene, consistent hunger, and then if they have had substance use exposure and active use in the home. Again, always having that caveat that, again, we do want to join with the family, look at their goals, realize their strengths, and also we have the duty to protect children.
All right.
There's one more on mandatory, or did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Again, just some cues for mandatory reporting. If people haven't done mandatory reporting before, sometimes it can be intimidating. And so we offer this as a guide that peers are not to be investigators. They observe and report what they see. Don't promise any confidentiality. Don't say, I'm going to call, but don't worry. I won't tell anybody, that kind of thing. Document what you see and what you hear. Just the facts, ma'am. As they say, do not assume. Mandatory reporting laws vary by state. Know your state's definition and their reporting hotline, and check the child welfare information there. When in doubt, report. Know your agency's policy. Admit or admin and liaison contact, and you don't need to be certain. You need to be concerned. Protecting children, as I said before, is always the priority. And again, get supervision, get peers, get support for this if you need to make that call, because there are ways. And again, from my own experience, I have made calls on a family and still maintain the relationship. So if there's any way to do that, get some guidance around that, about how you might be able to maintain the relationship, even if you know you have to make this call. Okay. So moving down to the scenarios.
Yeah, we're going to finish up with an activity here. And what we'd like you to do is we're going to, Cody, we're going to get into groups of 4. We're going to have in our groups 2 people be family members, 1 peer recovery coach, and 1 observer. We already have the scenario outlined for you. So in this case, you won't have to choose one, but act out a meeting or just role play, whatever words are most comfortable for you, a meeting where the peer recovery coach is meeting with the family for the first time. So the peer recovery coach is going to ask each participant to define the problem, and together they're going to identify the needs of the family members, identify the strengths of the family members, and start to talk about within this conversation, identification of a family goal. Hold on one second. If I stop sharing and then put this back up here. I'm going to put this up here. I just want to get the right slide up.
Is it okay if there are 5 people to a room in some cases?
That work better? Yes. And then there can be 2 observers, which
Okay.
We're all about people being comfortable if they don't want to do a role play and just want to observe. So it's fine. Let me read you the scenario. Carol and James have been married for 20 years. James is 48 years old. He has a stressful job and has been passed over for promotion several times. He used to go to happy hour with coworkers every weeknight to vent about the boss. However, after 2 DUIs, Carol has threatened to leave him if it happens again. He now comes home after work and has a couple of beers. Carol just found out that he has also been adding vodka to his water bottle, which he drinks both at home and work. Carol's insisting that he can check himself into rehab and has consulted a lawyer about divorce. Cody, maybe, I don't know if you can, but maybe we can put this in the chat as well, but that's your scenario.
Let's see what I can do.
Carol and James, married for 20 years. James is struggling, stressful job, no promotions, used to go to happy hour. But after 2 DUIs, Carol's threatened she will leave him if it happens again. But he now comes home from work and has a couple of beers. She's found vodka in his water bottle with he drinks both at home and work. Carol is insisting that he check himself into rehab and has consulted a lawyer about divorce.
Could you stop sharing, copy the text, and then send it
I
in the
can try.
chat?
Sure, we
I
can do
think
that.
that might be the most efficient way to share that.
We'll get that
Right.
in there. So let me get back to again your I'll work on that.
I
So
can do
get
it, Karen. You
five.
go ahead and do the other stuff. I'll
Okay,
copy the
get
stuff
into
into
groups
the
of
chat.
Thank you,
5.
Sarah.
You got 2 family members, 1 peer recovery coach, and 2 observers. Have a meeting with this family. Ask each participant to find the problem. So Carol and Joseph, is that his name? Identify needs, identify strengths, facilitate identification and family goal setting. Obviously, you're not going to get that all done in 15 minutes, but just to practice, just getting some of your thinking going around how you work with a family around needs identification, strengths identification, and goal identification, and using all the principles that we've talked about.
I'll get the directions into the chat too.
All right.
All right.
How long have they been married?
20 years.
Oh, how about them apples? That's a
How
long
long
time.
should the rooms be open
All the
for?
way. Let's give everybody 12 minutes.
All right.
Ooh.
That's all we've really 42, 52. That gives us back for 5 minutes at the very end. So yeah. Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you so much. There were 4 groups. We'd love a high level, really 30-second takeaway from each group. And, I'm most curious about how did you as a peer recovery coach, or how did it go in the group watching the peer recovery coach navigate Carol and James and their competing needs kind of thing. So group number 1, which Brian, Donald, Jordan, Maria, Sarah, 30 seconds with the takeaway.
The observers. One shall drive.
What's that? Donald, I missed what you said.
I was calling on the observers.
Observers. You want one of the observers in your room to share one high level takeaway?
Yeah, I think our group did really good. It's so hard to role play and just on the spot like that. So really good job, guys. I think that we went through some other options. When given an ultimatum, I think it's important to, look at each participant's willingness and what, instead of extreme black and white, let's try to add in some gray area, like instead of residential treatment, what about outpatient? Would you both consider that? And so I think they did a really good job. Yep, that's what I have.
Nice. Love that. Options when we're talking divorce or else options. Wait, let's step it back and see if there's anything else. Thank you. Group number 2, Barbara, Carrie, Jose, Susan.
Hello, everyone. I feel that Barbara did a very good job. She was the peer recovery coach, and Carrie was James, and Susan was Carol. And I like how Barbara first opened up by asking James, what are you comfortable with me sharing? And then they started discussing, treatment methods for James and what he was willing to explore as far as inpatient, outpatient. And then Susan, as Carol, kind of like gave the ultimatum to where she didn't, this is the last time, like I don't accept it, I need him to go inpatient or else. And Barbara said, well, what about outpatient? And there's medicated assisted treatment. And that kind of opened up Carol to say, well, I will allow that, being that you're going to try several different methods of recovery, right? And Carrie came back at Carol and said, well, I would like for you to join me. So Barbara, Carol actually was a little upset still, and Barbara explained it to her and said, "Listen, you have to understand that this is a disease." And she's like, "Well, he lies pretty good to me." And Barbara said, "Well, this is just a symptom of the disease." So educating Carol on what it looks like in recovery, and then assisting James in advocating for himself as to what treatment he wanted to go into. I think she did a really good job in navigating both parties and hearing them both out.
Good job, Barbara. And thank you, Jose, for sharing. Thank you. Room 3? Jermaine, Jamie, Cassie, Lisa? One high-level takeaway, about 30 seconds. Anybody?
I was the peer support, so I thought it was amazing how we were be able to come to agreement. Well, they were, and Emma was able to facilitate it. I'm not for sure who else was in my group. I know Jermaine was.
Yeah, Jamie and Lisa.
I believe Jamie was the facilitator, or the person that was observing.
Great.
Yeah, I think she was talking. She just Cassie, I think she was talking. She just didn't realize she was not on mute.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No, she did great. Make sure I'm off, right? Okay, you guys can hear me.
Yes, we can.
She listened to both parties. She, heard their frustration. She was able to point out their strengths. One being that, that they had been together for 20 years, and that was, kind of threw that strength out there right away. She gave example and some ideas of things that they could do, and I think she, it felt like she was hearing them. And what everybody was open to, the couple was open to. And what I really liked about it is at the end, like, she even put herself in those goals. Okay, this is, moving forward, this is what we're going to all do. Like I'm in it with you guys. You do this, you agreed to this, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do my part, to support you guys. And so, yeah,
Thanks.
she did really good.
Thanks, Jamie. And you guys, you peer recovery coaches sound like you're rocking it. Amazing. Thank you. And the last group, Carmen, Kathy, Charlie, Terry. Just one high level takeaway, what you observed or how it went. Anybody from group 4?
Carmen, you were the observer.
Maybe not. Oh, Kathy, you're muted. Kathy Wortham, you can go. Just very quick. I'm just going to tell you, Kathy, go.
Well,
I know you'll forgive me.
That's why I was hoping our observer would share, because I was acted as the peer, so it was a different kind of role, not being a peer. So it was actually a little bit harder, not being in, trying to be that role and taking that on. So I was hoping somebody else would give some feedback for it, so trying to really give a lot of time for them to process and go through those pieces. So I felt like it went well to give them time to do that. That's why I'm hoping somebody else could give some feedback on it.
I think in considering our limited time, that's okay. But Kathy, I think your perspective that it's not family-centered peer recovery coaching is no easy lift. Okay, so it's tough. So thank you for sharing that. That's a critical transformational role, I believe. I'm so grateful to be part of this project and watching this evolve and develop, and it's not easy. So thank you for the work you do.
Karen?
Yeah, go ahead, Karen Yost.
If I can jump in real quick, this is very difficult sometimes when you're trying to negotiate between families. And I think at the end of it, to be truly strength-based, it's the fact that they were willing to discuss it and do it. That willingness and sometimes we don't get perfect, but effort's really important. And sometimes that's something you want to make sure that you recognize that while it isn't easy for you to go through it, it's even harder for families sometimes. And so, just the willingness to do the work, the effort is really important to recognize as well.
Absolutely. So, thank you all. Thank you, Kathy, for letting me call on you. Appreciate it. And we're at time. We want to honor this time on a Friday. You guys need to
Hopefully
get
you
your
found the evaluation in link in the chat. We really, really want your feedback.
and yeah, we do. And this pilot, this 2 hours, we learned a lot. First time we've done it, things we need to change. And thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on it. I'll just say thank you for your time. Thank you for all you do every day. It matters big time. And we're so privileged and grateful to work with you and just be a little piece on this journey. I don't know, Sarah, Karen, Yost, if you had any final reflections, just any sign off.
Yeah, I just really
Sarah?
appreciate the engagement. It makes it so much easier. And really, we are not delicate flowers in the eval. Give us real live feedback and just, be able to say like, hey, this was too much, this was not enough, that kind of thing, because we really do want to make it the best possible product for you to move forward. So you can say, yes, you're
yeah.
awesome, but also change this part. So feel free.
Yeah, I mean, we really do. We know we will be tweaking this after, with your feedback because we want it to be meaningful. But I want to say one thing. There's a lot of information here, and what we did today was skills-based kinds of activities. But we know we can't do it all. You're not going to, you're not going to be able to go out today and maybe do it the way you would want. But this is a good opportunity in your supervision to practice these skills. I mean, we've given you an introduction and some practice. But, to get really good at it, especially if you're not used to it, takes time. So please utilize your supervision time to practice these a little bit more. And if there's additional training we can provide, please put that in the evaluation. We can do webinars. We have learning and sharing hours that are designed to augment this training. So your recommendations and suggestions are really important for us because we want to make sure that we're meeting your needs as well. So, and I want to thank you also. I mean, this has been a long series for you and takes a lot of time. I hope you found it helpful. And we really appreciate everything you do every day. We know this work is not easy. And we appreciate all the good things you're doing in your communities.
And showing
Thank
up for
you,
an
everyone.
extra day, unexpected day. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
Have a great weekend. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
We'll see you
Bye.
soon.
Have a
Okay.
good
We'll see you
weekend.
soon. Yeah. Bye-bye.